Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ivan Oberon's Money Matters. It is Thursday, August 7th. For those of you who are a little bit like Scott and you're kind of like on a permanent vacation and you don't know what day of the week it is or what time of day it is or what day of the month it is August 7th. And it's crazy, man, because I got like, Scott, stop doing that. I'm gonna need to mute you.
No.
Seriously, it's like 3 weeks left before my daughters go back to school, and we're doing everything that we can to get as much summertime back in here before that starts. But it's just crazy, right? It's gone so fast. We've done so many of these webinars. So many things have been changing in the last 6 months alone for everybody here on in this side of things, and coast to coast, and our families and our businesses. And growing with all of you guys by our sides, and the way that we can learn from you guys, the way that you learn from us, and add value back and forth to each other is really what this is all about. And one of the things that I wanted to do tonight, or I guess the main thing that I want to do tonight, is just do a little bit of an expose on my buddy Scott Travis. Tell you guys a little bit about myself, a little bit of my backstory for those of you who don't know it, or maybe you haven't heard the whole thing, just so we can be more relatable and create that relationship and bond with you guys, and then kind of go back and forth and ask each other some questions, and then open it up to you guys to ask us anything that you like about our business, about real estate investing in general, about challenges that we've overcome. And see where you guys are at in your businesses, and what your goals and your aspirations are, to see what kind of value and maybe some input that we can add to those things. So how does that sound to you, Scott? Are you in? Are you down for that?
I'm holding your hand, and we're going to skip through this together, my man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do need to work on my calves a little bit, so we'll go skipping along. That's
It's not a workout; it's a webinar. Come on.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was just, I did get in a little about 20-minute workout, and I had to squeeze it in, and got some. I jump rope in between each set. That way, I can make sure I get some cardio in. So now we're here, and I'm excited to be here, man. And I think I'm gonna be able to find out a few extra things about you that maybe I don't even know yet. So that's kind of my hidden agenda right there. So, Scott, why don't you start us off a little bit? Tell us about little Scott Travis, and where you started, where you came from, how you decided to get into contracting, as you went through school or maybe afterwards, and just go, man.
Here we go. The life and times of Scott Travis.
That's right. Yeah, I want to know for sure if your name's always been Scott Travis, or if you changed your name, because there's.
No, it's I have three first names and three last names. So it's Richard Scott Travis, and that's me. That's my born name. This year I'll be 50, so you could figure out when I was born. Birthday's in October. Married for 28 years to actually someone that I walked into Mervyn's department store. I worked at Mervyn's department store when I was 18 years old in the men's department. I looked across the way, and I saw Ann, and it was destined to be in my world. Went home, told my mom I met the girl I was going to marry. I didn't even know her name. I had no clue. No clue of her name, but she was the most beautiful thing in the world, and I still feel that way today, personally. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's we've married. Well, I actually found out her name 6 months. Later we were dating. 6 months after that, we got married.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's the story of that.
So she was obviously doing her job in the sales department there. She sold you on something quick. And
yeah, she was working in betting, so I don't know where that comes in, but yeah, she was doing her job there. So yeah, we got married. I woke up one day, and a friend of mine said that I'll go back a little bit. A friend of mine from high school said, hey, he was moving out, and if he needed a roommate, do you want to move? And I said, yeah, yeah, I guess why not? I mean, I wasn't doing anything else. I was still living at home. I was a, I was working for the cable company. I was climbing the poles and hooking up cable TV.
Hmm.
So I had a great job. And then shortly after that, I went to work for Southern California Edison and became an apprentice lineman.
Okay.
Kind of followed my dad's footsteps in that, but it's kind of bad when you're one of your fears is heights and you're climbing 90 feet up in the air on half an inch of steel between your foot and the pole that you're climbing on. So so I went to work there, and then we got married. So I was kind of in between there. I had the job at Edison.
You know, one of my best friends is a planner for Edison.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad retired there as a he was, gosh, I don't know, he was inside. He was general foreman. He was all those things. And then my stepmother just retired from there, I don't know, 5-10 years ago.
Hmm.
So I was working there, and funny enough, we were on our honeymoon, and my wife got a call from Edison, and so she went to work there. So right after we got married, she went to work there. Boy, get stuck in that quagmire. So I'm going to jump ahead. I coached
Sure.
Little League for for about 14 years. I had Little League teams when I didn't have kids,
Mhm.
and then when I had kids, we went through it again. But one of the dads was always at the practices, always at the games, never missed anything. And I was just hustling to get to the practice. I'd call
Yeah.
practice, and he would always be there before me. And I'm like, man, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a pool guy. I go,
Huh.
he's always tan. He always looked like he was rested. He just always looked comfortable. You know what I mean? He was just one of those guys where you just look at him, he's just comfortable in his skin. Never really had a worry. And I'm like, man, how do you get into that? And he goes, well, if you want to. He goes, if you want to, come along with me. And I'm kind of really jumping ahead because we had 2 kids in there, and I had my house and everything else. And so I took a week off. I took a week vacation from work to go to work for this guy and to see what it was all about. And at the end of the second day, with my wife, she knew how absolutely I hated my job. It was just, you were making good money. I mean, I was making, gosh, $25 an hour. This is 28 years ago. I mean, that was good money.
Yeah.
I mean, that was huge money. 100% medical, 100% dental coverage. 2 kids, a wife, a house. We were living the American dream.
Sure.
My wife just got hired on to work there, so we were going to have the double coverage and everything. So I went to work with this guy, and I came home. I said, man, I got to figure out how to do this. So I went to a broker that was selling pool routes, and we're talking the pool guy, the guy with the pole in the back of the truck and the chlorine tablets, and
Yeah.
the whole thing. So he told me, if you really want to do this, you should look into buying your own route. And I still work with him the rest of the week. And at the end of that week, I had made it my mind up that we made a decision that I was going to quit my job, and I was going to buy my own pool route. So I had some money in stock. So
well, man, I just want to stop you just for a second.
Go
right
ahead.
there,
if I start to ramble, stop me.
Well, and just because I think that's an important point to highlight right there, because you had a quote unquote cushy job, right? I mean, I know Edison's still pretty much the same. Okay, they're a corporate run company, so there's definitely a lot of politics and that kind of garbage, but they do have great benefits still. They have pension plans. They have all this stuff, and so you had this secure, cushy job. You were making good money, and you went to this guy, and you're like, you know what, I gotta quit this. Whereas there's the entrepreneurial mind right there, because most people that have that position, whether they enjoy their job or not, it's very difficult for them to say, oh man, I'm just going to quit this and go start something I don't know anything about just because I want to look tan and rested. Like, you know what I mean? That's some serious motivation right there.
Yeah, it's not for everyone to just all of a sudden. I mean, I was making a life family decision. I mean, I was making a decision for my wife, for my kids, and for our future. And
right.
That's you hear the thing where you kind of cut the rope from the boat. I mean, I did not have a lot of support from my father. My mom was behind me, but my father, for heaven's sakes, this company's given me everything I have, and why would you want to give up this, and why would you want to do that? And it's like, it just wasn't for me, Dad. It's just not. I want to do something better. So that's what I did. I ventured out.
And where was that? Was that California?
Yeah, it was in Southern California. We, and like you say, going back to the cushy jobs. I mean, there was times where I would work, and if you work for Edison, the best time is storm money, which means that if you have electrical storm or the Santa Ana winds come through, knocks the power lines down. I mean, we worked. I think the longest I worked straight was 3 weeks. I mean, day and night. And the cushy job where we knew how to work the overtime, so we were getting paid double time from after the first 18 hours for the whole 3 weeks. So I mean, it was just, and then we got a 4-hour break, and I mean, I pretty much had it made. I mean, I had a great job. I had kind of company cred with my dad and my stepmom there. So I wasn't treated badly at all.
Sure.
So I ventured out, went and gave my 2-week notice actually at work after the following Monday when I went back, and I knew the superintendent pretty well, and he goes, well, you have 20 some days left. He goes, why don't you just take those as your 2 weeks, so you can tomorrow's your last. Actually, you can clean out your locker room, and tomorrow's your last day. I said, if you're giving me that option, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gone. So that was it's funny. I remember that was the time of the beepers. When the beepers came out, and the first thing I did is I got myself a beeper because you felt like you were special.
Totally. And then you had to go find a payphone to call anybody back.
Yeah, actually, this is really didn't go back. We had one of those suitcase phones where you could put it in your car, and it was like a little purse.
Oh yeah.
You'd feel all bad. You'd pay $2 a minute driving down the freeway talking. It's just like, oh, I'm a fat cat now. But so that's I started in Southern California. I picked up I bought a pool route. I paid $42,000 for the pool route. I borrowed the money. I was gonna say I took money out of stock. I borrowed the money from my grandmother. My grandfather had passed away, so she had money in her account, and she gave it to me. And what I really didn't realize is I borrowed every last dime that she had. I mean, she probably had like $500 or $600 in her bank after she gave it to me. She goes, Scotty, I know you're going to pay me back, so just pay me back when you can. Mm-hmm. So 6 months later, I paid her back in full, and nice. I absolutely gave her more money. But she was probably now. Geez, I'm feeling teary now here. She just passed away not so long ago. Her and my grandfather were pretty much my role models growing up. I mean, they were married young, and they died married. It was one of those, and it was something. It was really something when someone has that much faith in you,
right?
To follow your dream, and you have someone behind you like that. Now, mind you, I had 1,000% support from my wife, and that was key. But when you find out that someone just gave you their money to help you follow your dream, was just it was crazy.
All of it.
But yeah, exactly. Not and it's just that just took me back there for a minute. That was weird. So moving forward.
Yeah, so that'll be $150 for that therapy session.
Yeah, thank you. So moving forward, we had another baby, and actually we had the 2 boys, and my wife was wanting to quit. She wanted to spend time with the kids, and I said, well, that's my gosh, you let me follow my dreams. Stay home. Let's raise the kids. Do what you want to do. But back in the back of her mind, she really wanted to be a police dispatcher, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow.
She wanted to get into police dispatching. So she had applied a year or so before she quit, and she was quote unquote retired, a stay-at-home mom for about 8 months. and then she got a phone call, and they offered her a job or an interview, and so she got hired on with Garden Grove Police Department, and she worked there for probably about a year and a half, and then we found out we were pregnant with our daughter Sally. So that's when she quit. So, and then stayed. She stayed on for just maybe a couple of months into her pregnancy, and then she just retired from there. And then so she came home, and that was I was supporting the family, and we were living big. We had a great house in Yorba Linda, California. We had a thriving business that was just going crazy, and in our infinite wisdom, I would just stop me if I'm rambling because I'm just trying to go through the whole story here. I don't want to take up.
Well, no, you're doing good, and I'll go fairly quick.
So she came home one day talking with her friend, and her friend was moving to Arizona, and she comes home. This was April 1st, and she goes, "What do you think of April 1st, 2001, I believe it was?" And she comes home, she goes, "What do you think about moving?" I go, "We got a house, 2 kids, a dog, business. Where do you want to move to?" She goes, "Well, I read that Henderson, Nevada is the quickest growing city in the United States."
Huh.
And I'm like, "Well, we've taken our boat through Henderson to go to Lake Mead."
Right. What's there?
I don't know what's there, And that was April 1st. June, I think it was June 8th, July 8th. I had sold my business. I had sold my company. I sold my company. I sold my house, and I moved out to Henderson, Nevada, and
you were doing pretty well here doing pools, but then Henderson you felt provided a new opportunity because it's the desert. It's super hot. Everybody was building out there. And because it's super hot, you pretty much figured that just about every house, if they wanted to sell, is probably going to have a pool, right?
That was the research that we did. I skipped over a little bit of research that I did. One in 3 houses had a swimming pool in Vegas. There's 5 states in the United States that have year-round swimming: California, Nevada, Florida, Texas, and Arizona.
Okay.
So those are the places. If I wanted to continue my business, that's where I was going to have to go. So 1 in 3 houses. It was the largest development, growing communities, along with pool building and everything else. So that's what we did. I said, I'm going to take it to the next level, and we're going to, with people moving into new homes, they're going to need a new pool. So got my license out here, started doing that. I moved out here with not knowing a street name. We lived in an apartment. We had a house being built for 6 months. I had 21 pools that I was servicing when I first moved out here. That was 1 day's worth of work. I stayed at Lake Mead for 6 days in a brand new pool with 3 kids, and that's basically where we lived for the first 6 months of our life, is on our boat. It was great.
Six months on a boat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Yeah. So from there, I moved up to. I'll kind of fast forward. I'll try and get it going faster. From there, I went up from 21 residential accounts to over 400, and then at the peak it was like 500 and something, and then I had employees. I've sold my business. I've sold my business probably 4 times since I've been out here, and that's kind of a niche market for selling off a pool route in the industry. So I would sell 100 pools to a new pool guy, just like I did when I first came in, and then I would build the route back up, and then we were building them. We were building quite a bit. And when I was building my pool at my house, we had a landscaper come over and say that he was losing his job. The company was closing down. And he was a good guy, super guy. So my wife was out there talking with him, and she goes, "Well, why don't you just open up your own landscape company?" He goes, "Well, I don't have the financials. I could pass the contractor's test, but I just don't have the financials to start up my own company." Well, in my wife's infinite wisdom, she goes, "Well, we'll pass the financials. We'll just add you onto our contractors, and we'll start our own landscaping company." I said, "Well, I'm not running no landscape company." I go, "I have enough employees. I have enough headaches. I have enough heartaches that I do not want to do this." And she goes, "No." She goes, "That's going to be my company."
Oh man.
And so we've always it's it helps tremendously if you have support behind you, and it goes both ways. Because I literally I gave my wife $1,000 to start the landscape company,
Uh-huh.
and now she has I don't know, between 30 and 40 employees. She has
Wow.
three construction crews and six maintenance crews. She's got a superintendent that's full time. Um, so I
Man.
mean, she's just blown it up. So we're both pretty much A personalities. We're both firstborn. I mean, we all play with the firstborn stuff. Um, I mean, she's a dynamo when it comes to that. And then I got tired of that. I'll really fast forward. I got tired of that. I was pretty much fulfilled. I was making money crazy,
As a
crazy.
swimming pool contractor, you're raking
Yeah,
it in.
yeah. And then then the economy crashed. I mean, then nobody's putting in pools. What they were doing is they were buying the homes and then they were getting 125% financing. So they'd buy the home and then they put $50,000, $60,000 in their backyard. Well, I have a pocket that's open. If you want to spend 60 grand, it's going in my pocket. And that's the way we looked at it. We were doing we wouldn't look at a landscape job under 25,000 before
Okay.
when the things were going good. So that's where it went. So I really
Yeah, so
started
let's
getting
fast
go
forward.
ahead.
You got a slamming business as a pool
Yep.
contractor. Ann's kicking butt on the landscaping deal, which a company that you guys still have and is still kicking butt. And then the pool business dried up a little bit for you, and somewhere along the line, you decided that you were going to get into real estate. And you're going to start flipping houses. And you're going to start doing that thing. So
Yep.
what got you into that? And did you start off with your own money? What
I
made
played
you decide? You know what? I'm going to shift gears now.
played the whole game. Actually, I was sitting down watching Armando Montalongo having one of his seminars coming into town. I've always wanted to play in the real estate game. I bought houses here and there. So I went to the 3 day class, went to the other thing, paid the money to go to the the $25,000 seminar that he had. Then I paid the other $25,000 to be on the master mentor. I did all the other stuff, and I said, well, and then I sold my company, and I once again I cut the rope from the boat, and I was out there swimming. And
Hmm.
I started out with using my own money on the first few jobs that I did. Then I started
And you were there
going
doing
in.
them in Henderson or nearby.
Actually, my first one was in California. I don't even remember where it was. It was
Lou.
up by you, and that's the one person that we know together that was the contractor on the job. That was my very first one. And then so I did the first one without even seeing the property, and I made I don't you know I don't know exactly. It was between 30 and 40,000 on the first
Okay.
job that we did. Um, and now I'm a real estate investor. I mean, that's pretty much the way it happened. There was no after support after you went through the program that I went through with the training that I went
Yeah.
to. It was here. I just give you $50,000 now. Go out and multiply, make money.
Sure.
Um, you know, so I have to say I've been burned quite a bit in real estate. Real estate has been one of the most eye-opening things for me as far as people's agendas and
Yeah.
people's greed. That's the one thing that if I can hit anybody out there, it's a greedy, cutthroat business until you actually find people that really have the same thing, and that's why. I mean, I can't thank enough you and Pete. I mean, you guys have just been a godsend to me. I mean, truly. So,
Aw.
I mean,
Well, we feel the same about you, man. And um,
yeah, we've
we've
all
been
been
run through
burned.
the ringer a couple times too, and I think that's just part of the game, though. And then once you realize that, you hear about it, right? People
Yeah,
tell you about it, right? And the gurus tell you don't really tell you much. They tell you that it's all rainbows and roses, but you still hear about it from the industry. It's the whole not if, it's when something happens to you, but you don't pay that close
right.
attention to it. You kind of ignore it. Sometimes you make the mistake of ignoring those gut feelings that you have about people or about circumstances, only to come back sometimes months later. Maybe it doesn't happen right away, but only to come back and man, it teaches you a pretty tough lesson sometimes.
Yeah, it does, and you know that's you know Anne has really got a bitter pill for real estate. I mean,
Does she?
it's oh yeah, it's kind of a it's kind of an underlying thing in this house. It's just you know I mean we're making money at it, we're doing it fine, but boy, she just does not like the whole dealings and everything about it. So she's you know when we first started getting together, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, the one that made her feel comfortable was you when we were sitting after we were in Atlanta talking downstairs at that one I don't know that Mexican bar that we were sitting
Yeah.
at that one night. She goes, you know what? If you can align yourself with people like this guy, I'm totally fine with it. But don't bring up the names of anybody that you've had dealings with before because they're all dirtbags. and she's and I stand behind her 100%. She's absolutely right. They are.
You know, what I think is interesting is that the community is pretty small because we happen to know some of the same dirtbags.
And have had the same dealings with them. That's what's crazy about it.
Yeah.
That's what's it is. It's a small. You know what? That's the thing. You know, for those of you that are out there, you have to realize that it is such. It's almost this weird clique now, and it's almost for each individual place that you go. Meaning that if you're a flipper and you want to flip homes, you're going to run into the same people all the time. If you're one of those people that are holding, you know, that fix and hold, you're going to run into that group. If you're a wholesaler, you're going to. It's really a niche market that's really kind of interesting because I've done each one of them. I've done the holds, I've done the flips, I've done the wholesaling. I was doing some stuff for the federal government that I was wholesaling some stuff for. It's really interesting. So but it is and it's almost like it's almost well it is greedy. But if people would just understand that there's enough out there and we could all benefit from each other. That's the whole thing. That's what's
right. What they don't get is that building the relationships and doing creating win-win scenarios and establishing a bond with somebody long term is going to be way more profitable than just screwing every single person that you can come across because there's so many people out there. I can just take advantage of all of them and I'll be fine.
Right.
So but you gotta just watch out for those people and they definitely come in sheep's clothing sometimes because they can talk the talk, they can play on your own emotions, on your faith, and all these different things.
Right.
And so that's why it is important when you find one or two people that have the same vision as you, that are honest, have integrity, that they don't claim to have it. You can just see it in the way they live. That's gold, man. You hang on to that. And so let me shift gears here because we've caught up to the real estate part. And what I didn't mention in the beginning is that my daughter does have a performance in her vacation Bible camp tonight. So no, it's okay. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of a background on me, and then maybe we'll talk about just one mistake that we've made that ended up costing us something, whether it was money, time, both, aggravation, whatever it is, and if that's what everybody wants to hear, then we'll do that. If not, then we can just, if there are questions, if you guys have questions, if you guys have any input, we'll do that beforehand if you guys want. And if you don't have anything, if you just want to listen, then we'll get into those failures before I go and or before we go. So, my story is not like Scott's at all. His is a lot more interesting and entertaining. But I started off here in Ventura County. I'm not going to go quite as far back, but I went through high school in Ventura, went really all elementary school, middle school, high school, college, all in Ventura County. And I was always in some kind of I ended up in some kind of sales job. Ever since I was young. Unbeknownst to me, my dad did very, very well when I was young. He's been an entrepreneur all his life. For some reason, I didn't really understand what that meant when I was younger. When I was in high school, in school, I had my own agenda, my own thing, and nobody ever taught me. Including my dad. He tried, but I guess I just kind of ignored him. I saw him taking all these big risks, buying stuff. And my dad's has a doctorate in archaeology. He loves art. He's always dealt in ancient artifacts. So he goes and he finds and he buys things and hoping that he can sell them for more later to the right collector, right? And I saw him doing these things, and some of these things he's paying lots of money for, and with the hope that maybe he can sell them in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And in my mind, I shut off to that when I was a kid, thinking, man, that's way too risky. I couldn't do that. And you know, I guess we've come full circle, but I just never understood what that meant, entrepreneur. I was going to school, I was going to do something, I knew that I needed to work for what I wanted. So when I wanted something, I'd ask for it, and my dad would, he's always been frugal, and he'd be like, no, whatever that thing is, in 6 months it'll be on sale, and I was like, okay. So I guess I'll just go and offer old ladies to pull weeds and do yard work for them. And so I would do that around my neighborhood when I was in middle school, to earn some money so that I can go get the things that I wanted that my dad wasn't going to pay full price for. And so that taught me a lesson, I think. And then I started working at a bakery when I was 15 years old. Then I worked at the docks, renting out kayaks and paddle boards, and then I started kind of falling into sales jobs. And every time I tried to get out of sales into something else, somehow I always wound up back in sales. And um, I got divorced in 2009, and my first wife, her family was in insurance, or is in insurance. And so during all that period of time, all those different years of working on customizing cars and selling stuff, or having different sales jobs, I was offered, why don't you come work in the family business, come work in insurance? And he's like, I am never going to go work with you, and I'm certainly not going to get into insurance. Like, who wants to get into insurance? And so I went.
Job.
Yeah, yeah. But again, it's another sales job, right? Which I wasn't adverse to sales. It's just like, there's nothing attractive about insurance, I think, in most people's minds, right? And so I was adverse to it for various reasons. And then I ended up taking a job at a car dealership. Well, I was a mechanic for a while, and then I left that job, and then I came back for, like, to have service or something. And one of the sales managers approached me and started asking me to come work for him and his sales team. And so I thought about it for a while, and I decided to take the job, because he painted this beautiful picture, right, of how life would be, of what his team does. And he talked up all these Vegas trips, and I'd never been to Vegas yet, so I was just like, oh man, that sounds really awesome. You guys do that, for you reward your team that way, regularly. And all right, well, that sounds good. So I ended up taking that job and quit my other job, and within a year, I was highly motivated to go back to school to get into insurance, because it just wasn't for me. It was not conducive to family life. I had two little girls now, and I needed, no weekends, no holidays, no family barbecues, none of that kind of thing. And so I decided, what, fine, I'll go back to school. And so I had reached a point that I now know to be constructive discontent in that job, or maybe it was almost destructive at that point. I mean, my eyebrows were falling out. Not that you could tell, but I was just stressed, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right. So I went back to school, and I got my PNC license, and I went and got my life and health license. So I was a duly licensed agent, and I started work at the agency, and I was brought on to be their personalized producer. And the way that insurance companies work in many cases, especially for independent agencies, is they'll have profit sharing, to where they're based off of different things. So you have all your personal line stuff, which is auto, umbrella, homeowners, renters insurance, that kind of thing. And then we did a lot of agricultural insurance, so ag commercial, and then commercial. So my job was to to grow the personalized book of business beyond a certain level, because at that point it would take them from like a 10% profit sharing to like a 35% profit sharing. So it was
Wow.
it was significant. I mean, it was a six-figure difference in a profit sharing for them. So within a year and a half or so, I had exceeded that threshold, And so, everybody was happy. I got a $25,000 bonus that year, and things were rolling around. So it we kept going that way for many years, and then that started in 2000 and end of 2003, and by 2009 I was going through my divorce, and they didn't want me to leave the agency, and she also worked there. Was Their daughter was the office manager, and so they weren't going to fire her. And well, I had to stick it out, right? Because that's what you do when you have a mortgage and you have kids and you have to provide a roof over their heads. And so I swallowed it, and I ate it, and I dealt with it for for a long time. And that was one of those trials in my life that I think prepared me to deal with other things. And I could say that it was one of the most challenging experiences of my life, and whatnot. But I went through it, got through it, and then my dad, being the awesome guy that he always is, throughout my whole life, he's come up with ideas like, well, why don't you look into this? I mean, he told me that I need to get into computers back in like 1996, and I was like, what are you talking about, computers? We had this
So
thing. Yeah, I was
those
just like,
big TVs.
it was like, whatever, Dad,
Yeah.
and look where we are now. so he's always been this visionary, but up until that point, I usually kind of humbly rejected his suggestions. And one day, it was in 2011, so I'd already been dealing with this emotional minefield at work for 2 years. He came and he said, well, how about why don't you look into real estate investing? You've always wanted, you've always liked real estate and whatever, but you never knew. I was like, yeah, Dad, I know. But I don't have that kind of money. I can't just be buying houses. You know how expensive houses are here. And so I still rebutted a little bit, but then he's like, you know what? I hear that there might be a way for you to do it without any of your own money. And I was like, well, all right. So again, I had reached a point where I had enough pain to cause me to say, okay, yes, I'll take half a day off of work, and let's go check this thing out. And same thing with me. It happened to be an Armando Montalongo mailer that my dad got, and so we went. They were having a thing here in Ventura, near the beach, or right on the beach actually. There's a hotel there, the Crown Plaza, and we went, and it was that half day preview, and things made sense. So I was like, man, okay, well, all right, well, I'll drop the $1,500 for the 3 day, and
Right.
then I went to the 3 day, and by the end of that, and that's where I met Pete. By the end of that, I was like, oh man, okay, well, I guess I guess it's time to really see what we're made of here, because that's a lot of zeros, man, behind the quote unquote bus tour that we got to go into. And I knew my dad wasn't going to go into that with me, so I ended up partnering with a guy there who was a realtor. Long story short, he ended up not ever doing anything. It was not not a good choice of partner, but at least we were able to partner up on the cost, and move forward. Went to the bus tour, did the thing, and then next thing you know, I'm working 20 hours a day, because I still have to show up to work every
Right.
day, and then I still have to build, and then I have to build my business every day. And so, and the only reason I say that and I illustrate that is because I want people to understand that when you're building your business and you're starting something new, you got to do whatever it takes. And if that, and for me, here's the kicker: I had to keep everything that I was doing a secret. So I was signing offers on my phone. I was printing stuff on there. I was stepping outside to talk on my cell phone with my realtors, and I mean, I kept everything a secret for about a year and a half, and
Wow.
that created its own level of stress because then the interrogations would begin, because my ex is just that way. And so um so then we started going to events, and that's where at the event that we went to in San Jose, we didn't know it, but that was the beginning of the the most major change in our business life, is because we met somebody in San Jose who took notice of us, who later on decided to fly us out to Missouri to take a closer look at us, because they had kind of kept their eye on what we were doing. And they became our major sponsor, and that was my ticket to out of that business. And I put in my resignation, and went into this full time. And I had already done a few flips by that point, but I was like, okay, now I have the people believing in me and in what we were doing, to have the confidence to say, here's my 30-day notice. And I felt that was fair after almost 10 years of a career, to give them 30 days. And I thought, well, they might take it or not. And well, they used every last minute of that 30-day notice that I gave them.
You dry.
Yes. So we started doing that stuff. I started here in California, and so in San Diego, because I couldn't get anything under contract here where I live. And so that's 3 hours away from me. And I decided, you know what, that's basically rehabbing remotely for me, because I went and saw these properties once the whole time that I was here, that I was doing those. I had joint venture with somebody because I raised all the money. That was my primary goal in this thing, was I was going to raise capital. And I found somebody who was getting deals under contract. And that was the way that, from the beginning, I said, I have to find a way to add value to other people. And everybody wants money. Everybody needs money. So if I can raise enough money, I know that I can add value to others. And here we go. I found a lady that had gotten 5 properties under contract. So she was in the right place at the right time with the right people. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, she sent me the deal with hard money. I sent it back to her and I said, redo this with all cash. And so she redid the numbers with cash, sent it back to me. And I was like, how about I just fund this whole thing and you run it, and we joint venture? And she was like, sounds good to me. And we stood to make more money joint venturing, splitting the profits 50%, using all cash, than we would have, or than she would have using hard money. So then we got another one under contract, and we got another one under contract, and that's kind of how it started. And then I wanted to be able to leverage more, and so started making connections in the Midwest, where instead of having to buy a property for $250,000, $300,000, we can buy them for 30 or 40, and still have decent. Instead of making 40 grand, maybe we're making 25, 30. But so what? That's a much better rate of return. So that's where it went, and then that's in the Midwest is where I experienced some of my most significant pain in this business. And we can get into that either on another call or a little bit later. But I just want to ask everybody. I know that was really quick, and we're 46 minutes.
I want to know more about you
right now. Do you guys have any questions? Is there any interaction that you guys want? I just want to open it up right now. I can unmute you guys so you can ask us some questions and make it more of a panel discussion, if that's what you want. If none of you want that, then that's fine. We can get into a couple of little things. But if any of you have anything to say, want to talk, just raise your hand right now, and I'll unmute you, and we'll make it more of a kind of an open discussion for the next 10 minutes or so. Anybody? No? Okay. I guess they just want to listen. I guess
they like just hearing us talk.
I guess they just like listening. So, hang on a second. We got a comment here. So does your next adventure involve the horse ranch, wine vineyard, ginseng pot farm in Oregon? I found.
I know who that is.
You know who that is.
Yeah, remember, and actually we put it across the table, and we all had an agreement. It's like, I don't think that's where we want to go right now.
Yes.
The ginseng farm.
Yes.
So I think it's Fred. Is that Fred?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
Fred.
it is. I see Fred. I know who it is.
So, since nobody's really wanted to speak up and engage, the last thing that I'll kind of add here is, but without going into some of these pain stories, because we can spend at least a half hour on that. So,
2 hours.
the what ended up happening is, I was managing 12 up to 12 rehabs at one point, and I realized, because kept getting more money, kept coming, more deals kept coming, and I just, I guess my eyes were larger than my abilities. Who knows? And so, but those are the types of properties that we kept getting, was those 30-40 thousand dollar properties, and did those. Started looking to do stuff in Missouri because of the people that we have there, and decided to go to Atlanta instead because we met a really really awesome realtor, and that's where we were fortunate enough to meet Scott. Brought him out with us to Atlanta, and ever since then we've kind of become thick as thieves. And he was doing some of the similar things, and one day, you know, it's kind of interesting how this progressed, because Gil sent me a deal one time that it was on a $1.2 million acquisition here in California. And up until that point, I wasn't even looking or considering that kind of stuff, because, you know what I mean? We had monies tied up somewhere else. But I took a look at it. We took it down the road. We put an offer in. We had Omar out there. Everything looked like it was going to be good. And we ended up getting into second place on that offer. So we didn't get it. And then what was it? A couple of weeks later, Scott comes up with this idea that, you know what, if we have, we have this millionaire mindset, why are we going to settle on a $2 dream type of thing? And what he meant by that is, man, we're why are we focusing solely on these lower end properties? Yeah, they're the gravy, right? They're the bread and butters and everything, but we need something different. And that's when we're like, well, all right, well, let's look at $1 million properties. And we got the funding, and we have, the different things set up for it, so why not? And then, he started pulling things together, and next thing you know, we're going down to Corona, and there was contacts that were made that led us that way, and now we're under contract. So that's kind of the progression of everything. So Fred, um, let me just say, eventually. How about that? How about,
Yeah.
I won't say no. See, I'm supposed to be the reasonable one here, right? I'm supposed to be the
Wow.
one that pulls the
You're not
reins.
saying no. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so we got to focus on a specific area at a time. We can't be in too many markets at once. You had to build your team and be able to rely on them and trust them, and everything else. So that's
Especially moving, especially the giant step that we're just taking right now. I mean, and jumping back just 2 seconds here is, in that pool that we were in, we were in a feeding frenzy, because that's where all the new investors are going. That's where everybody that comes out of the seminars are going. That's where everybody has, if they have money, that's where they're going to start with, and that's fine. And that, because that's where we all, once again, we still have rehabs going right now in that price range. And
right.
I don't think that, and like we've talked about, I don't think we'll ever really completely get out of that, because if a deal comes across our desk that we can make money at, we're going to do that. But we also have people, we also have our teams set up in specific areas right now, and we knew this was going to happen. That once we broke out and had a good team in this area, we're going to have to focus in there. So, when we first started this thing, it was like, we're broadcasting it to everyone. Well, now we've got a great team down in Southern California. We've got a great team in Atlanta. We're still building the team in Boston. I mean, so the areas that we're going to be going into are really going to start being
Yeah.
refined, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah. And obviously, I've spent a lot of time nurturing relationships and money sources, and the type of money that comes after these types of deals is so different. you know
Right.
and these guys, even though they have the money, they wouldn't look at our $30,000 acquisitions. It's just not what they want. And just to illustrate, and I was telling Pete and Scott this, like, this is where we need to be. I even texted Merrill, because he would really get it. Well, just got the proof of funds from one of our newer investors, and he's got a credit line of $10 million. How amazing is that? Like, that's just that's just awesome, right?
Go to the bank and write a 10 million
That's where you
check.
want to go, and that's textbook like awesome investor. That's why I texted Merrill, because that's what he's all about. Build your personal credit to a level to where then you can start leveraging off of business lines of credit that don't affect your personal credit, and you continue to build that business line of credit so you can borrow it at a cheap rate and go invest it. I mean, with $10 million, he can that's his job, is like, what can I invest this in so that I can get a rate of return? You know what I mean? That's a full-time job already when you got that kind of money.
Yeah,
So,
and if you don't understand that, that means that he is not using one penny of his own money. He's using someone else's money to make him money. His money is separate. This is just
right,
a line of credit that people are
right,
going to give him. That's what's so amazing. I mean, and I think sometimes people don't realize it. Well, I have to have a lot of money so that I can invest it. No, if you leverage yourself where people are going to let you borrow the money, and they're saying, use my money to make money off of it. I just want a little piece of the pie, but you can make as much money as you want off of my money.
yeah,
That's that's it.
exactly. And who knows what he's getting that kind of money for? As another example of just, you talk about the millionaire mindset. I had my truck. I bought it. I paid cash for it, and then I educated myself, and I decided, you know what? I just got this liability here. What am I doing? Why am I doing that? And so then I ended up taking what I called an equity line of credit against my truck, and I pulled 20 grand out of it at 1.9%, and I invested the rest at 20%.
Right.
So that's that's the sole reason why I need to do that. Then I paid off this other car, and so it's just being able to know what assets you have, especially if you have good credit. If any of you guys are not making a monthly payment, if you own your vehicles outright, that is a resource that you guys can tap into through a good lending institution that'll give you a cheap rate collateralized against that vehicle. So anyway, just a little food for thought there.
That's what we're here for.
All right, guys. Quick comment. There was, have you ever heard of investing in tax overages? Yes, I have heard of that, and I know somebody within our network that actually teaches that, and just did a webinar on one of my good friends' networks, and he has a course on it, and he did very, very, very well with this course because he does very well in that specific strategy. So yes, we have heard of it. It's not something that we're doing. All right. So guys, we got 5 minutes to showtime. So if there isn't anything else, Scott, if there's something else that you want to say, it almost feels like we went kind of fast. So I hope
Yeah.
you guys got some value out of this. Send us a message on Facebook or wherever if you like this type of discussion. If you'd like us to come back and do another one on a specific topic, maybe some of the pitfalls that we run into, some of the roadblocks, some of the mistakes that we've made, we're more than happy to share that stuff with you. And we can probably do an hour webinar just on what to look out for, some of the things that we've erred in that you can learn from and help you avoid those things.
Pitfalls. That's
Yeah,
a great one.
yeah,
That's a great one.
maybe.
I mean, I'm sure between the two of us, we can go 3, 4, 5 hours just doing that.
All right, don't get carried away, okay?
I'm not. I wouldn't want to sit here and trust me. I would have a box of tissues. I would be crying.
You just have to close the door, make sure Ann can't hear you retelling those stories.
Exactly. Oh gosh, yeah, no, that would be terrible.
So please, guys, definitely reach out to us. Let us know that you want to do that. Or if any of you do feel brave and you want to actually get on a discussion where we're more kind of like put you in the hot seat and you can ask us certain questions, let us know. We'd be happy to redo that. If not next week, maybe in a couple of weeks or something. And if you're not connected to us on Facebook, go to c2crea.com and go to the Connect with Us page, and you can find all of our social media on there, whether you're on this call or listening to the podcast. And if you have anything else, whether you want to email us or reach out to us anyway, the website is the best place to go. And once again, that's c2creia.com. And don't forget to listen to us on the radio as well, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time at c2crea.com/live. You can get the live stream no matter where you are. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great evening. I'm gonna go catch my daughter's performance. And Scott, thanks for being on, man. I look forward to talking to you again later.
You got it, buddy. I thank you, Ivan.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night.